In this video, we're going to show you how to do a dynamic hip flexor stretch. That hip flexor is on the front of your thigh and attached to the front of your spine. And so we're going to try to stretch and elongate this area. Get yourself into half kneeling. So one leg is in front of you with your foot flat on the ground, ankle just underneath your knee, and the other leg bent underneath you with your knee directly under your hip and your foot behind you. In this position, you can rest your hand on your front knee for a little bit of balance and support as needed, or you can always hold on to a chair or a piece of furniture for balance if you need a little extra support. First thing you want to do in this position is just get nice tall posture. So lift your chest up towards the ceiling and get nice and tall. Keep that tall posture, and then you're going to tuck your tail under, doing what we call a posterior pelvic tilt. Just so instead of an arched back, we're going to tuck and flatten out that lower back. You should feel your core really engaged. That helps put a stretch on that hip flexor and protect our lower back so we don't cause any strain to our lower back as we're stretching here. So keep that nice up tall posture, that posterior pelvic tilt and the core engaged. And then you're going to rock forward onto the front leg until you feel a stretch right in the front of your hip and or thigh. Pause for a brief moment and then you come back out. So if I move my hand away, you can see I'm tucking my pelvis under, keeping that tall posture, and then rocking forward until I feel that stretch. Pause and then you rock back out. You only want to go as far as you can without causing any pain or cramping or any discomfort outside of just a big stretch. And you're going to gently rock back and forth so you can mobilize and stretch within the movement itself instead of doing a static hold, which tends to be a little less effective. If you're watching this from the front view, it looks like this. Nice tall posture, pelvic tilt, core engaged, rocking forward and back. Biggest thing here to make sure you're doing this correctly is that pelvic tilt, okay? So if you lose that pelvic tilt and your lower back starts arching, you see I can get a lot farther before I feel any stretch whatsoever. And that's because now I'm moving and stretching through my back and not through the hip flexor like we want. And that could irritate the lower back, especially if you already have some problems there. So be very mindful that you're keeping that pelvis tucked and tight so you can localize that stretch here. The other common mistake I see people make is you'll lean forward through the stretch. So you'll go forward and lean into it this way. And again, you can see I can get super far into that stretch. And that's because I'm not holding that top end of the hip flexor in a steady position. So I can't get a good effective stretch. So that's where you want to really keep that upright posture as you're going in and out to make sure we're getting that effective stretch in the correct spot. Now you can play with the angle a little bit. So right now we are pretty much straight on, but if you wanted to play with the angles, you can get the front knee a little wider. And so I'm kind of going at a diagonal, a 45-degree angle, and that gets a little bit more into the groin, but also in the hip flexor. So this is a nice way to get a slightly different angle to stretch in the same movement. So from the side, foot is out wide. And now I'm stretching a little bit more in a diagonal. So you can play with the angle and feel what works well for your body.